Yeah, Brian is not able to put any face on. He's just one of those guys that unapologetically doesn't give a single shit, and he is what he is,
I
and that's what you get.
I
So
think that's
it's
just with
awesome.
anybody that works on anything. Because when I talk to Scott, he's a motorcycle tech, and he's just same thing.
Yeah,
Like I don't care. This either works or it doesn't. And if it doesn't
yeah,
work, we're gonna find a way to make it work.
that's interesting. So yeah, maybe mechanics have like there's like a certain way a mechanic's brain just
Yeah,
thinks,
and it
and
doesn't work
they
for me. I can't do
yeah, I
it.
know. I want to. I truly want to, and I'm sure it frustrates the shit out of Brian when
Yeah,
we're working on stuff. But it's interesting how different people just kind of like gravitate. But I don't know if they were born like that or like maybe that's just how they learn that they like grab that knowledge better. But this is what I'm talking about.
yeah,
You'd have a conversation with
yeah.
a motorcycle mechanic, and you're like, your brain thinks in such a weird way,
Yep.
but that's so good for you
Yeah, that's
because it
great.
works out so well.
I can pick out maybe 10% of what you're saying, but I'm learning 10% more than what I did. And
Yeah.
that's kind of where I
Yeah.
go with all my conversations. Yeah.
Right. It's awesome to surround yourself with people that are like different in key ways because if you just like surround yourself with people that are like you kind of have this like group understanding and nobody really like learns in
Yeah.
the way that you want to learn. But if you surround yourself with people that are like your polar opposite, not that Brian's my polar opposite, but he there I have a deficit. He has a lot of knowledge over there.
Yep.
So it turns out to be a pretty good mix to mix yourself with people like that.
Have you been doing that a lot in the past few years? Because you say we a lot when it comes to your videos, so I'm assuming you have a team.
The
So
guy,
you're
yeah, the guys make fun of me a lot. So I do we in both ways. When I do something by myself, I still say we,
yeah.
and when I ask one of them to do something and they do it, I will then say we did that type thing.
Okay.
So I get shit on it from both ends. But yeah, I have a team of people that helps me make the content that we produce.
Okay.
So the way that looks is I obviously have me and Brian on the Wreck Bike Rebuild show, and we have an editor, and then obviously Luke is holding the camera because it floats around, and
Yeah.
we don't have that little guy on Mario that floats on the cloud yet. We couldn't afford that guy.
See, that's relatable. I understand that.
Right, perfect. See, I'm already getting the teach people in the correct way.
There you go.
And we just brought on a producer to help. We make a lot of content, and we have a current issue where I'm bottlenecking the process of because I have to touch everything to get onto Patreon. So I brought on a producer recently to help that process. So there's generally four of us total.
Yeah.
And then my wife does some stuff like she does driving for the camera car most of the time. If we do a first ride, Heather's going to be driving the car. So
Okay.
five people on the reg that helps produce all the content.
Wow. That's when did that start to happen, and when did you feel like you needed to start doing that?
I could handle the entire channel and all the social media and all the emailing up until I think season 2 of Wreck Bike Rebuild because Wreck Bike Rebuild was the real big shift of it. It would take 2 days of research to prep for the episode. It would take an entire day, like start at 9, end at 6, type of filming to film the episode, and then it would take 3 to 4 days of editing. So that's 2, 3, 4. Like I'm out of days of the week,
Wow. Yeah.
and I don't have a weekend. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it started out with bringing on somebody to kind of help the pre-production of that video, like. I don't need to research now. Like when we film an episode, obviously like we have a general idea of where the build's going to go. Like that's kind of the first initial part of a wreck bike rebuild. It's like, all right, we got this wreck bike. What do we want it to look like and how do we get there? So first off was getting somebody to help me find the best place to get certain parts and stuff like that and try to keep that managed.
Oh yeah, that's a lot.
Yeah, I mean, it's not a lot for a single person's bike, but when you put it into a timeline that we're trying to work into, it does become a little time consuming to like, what's the best place that can get us to us for the best price, and do they want to work with us type thing. Like there a lot goes into it. And then with the ZX10, we had to swap the frame, which for me was like,
Wow.
oh, fuck. Okay,
It's a
well,
lot of work.
this is going to be interesting. So, because I did the monster by myself, which is the season 1. The ZX10, I brought Brian on because I was like, he was the guy that at the end of season 1, I just took the monster up there to be like, can you guys make sure that this thing's not going to fall apart?
Yeah.
Also, do you mind if I film it? And Brian just ended up being the mechanic to be like, of all the mechanics in that shop, he was like, I don't give a fuck. He can record me. I don't care.
That's the sound
Which is
of
perfect.
That sounds like
It is.
It's a mechanic for you right there.
Right. I'm glad that you did the podcast with Scott, so now
Yeah.
we can relate
Yeah.
over like what it's
See?
like talking with a mechanic. But so yeah, Brian was the guy working on the monster to make sure that I didn't fuck shit up too bad. And then we just kind of like grew a friendship from there. And I was halfway through the ZX10 working on it by myself. And when I realized the frame was going to have to get swapped out, I was like, Brian, you want to come over to my house and like work on the bike? And it started like that. And then that's when I realized how much knowledge he has. And I was like, there's no way I can give people this much knowledge through me. Because like having to translate it through Brian, I was like, stuff's going to get lost. So we did a couple episodes, and a lot of stuff on camera has to be like, obviously he has to really know what he's doing, but we also have to jive well, because if there's like this weird, like you can't film that, you know what I mean?
And you don't want to
kind of
just you don't want to. It's like
yeah, you don't want to film that, and it's going to just be awkward if the mechanic and the guy doesn't seem like they're buddies type thing. And luckily, me and Brian just hit it off. We're totally opposite people, but we jive well. So brought Brian on, and that freed up a ton of my time to not have to like. I always know what we're going to film, but you never know what's going to happen. So that would always be what took a lot of time filming. And now if shit hits the fan, I can just be like, Brian, what the fuck do we do now? You know what I mean? And he just knows.
Yeah.
Because that's how his brain, it doesn't matter if it's a Kawasaki, a Ducati, a Honda, a Suzuki. It's just like mechanic brain.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He figures stuff out really well. So that's when we brought Brian on. I think after that is when we actually got Luke holding camera, and like that's the team. Like the team all focuses around Wreck Bike Rebuild. Like I handle, if anything's not Wreck Bike Rebuild, I do it by myself.
Yeah.
First rides I have the camera car situation, but as far as all the editing and stuff, the only thing I don't edit and don't film is Wreck Bike Rebuild.